The next issue opens where the unconscious Thor opens his eyes, where he believed that he was on Earth, only to be greeted by his Asgardian companions, the Warriors 3. Completely confused, for he believed he was just on Earth battling a zombie-infected New York, he asked his friends how they got here, only for them to be also confused, saying that they were indeed on Asgard, not on Earth as Thor had believed. Before he could fully process his whereabouts, Thor was soon interrupted by Volstagg, who informed him that Loki was, once again, in danger. Immediately springing into action, Thor went on the offense to find his brother, who was being held captive by a race of monsters. Allied with his brethren, Thor tore through the enemy's armies and made his way to free Loki, where the pair were reunited once more. As predicted though, this reunion would soon be cut short, where Loki would of course betray his brother, piercing him through the heart with his spear. As Thor lay bleeding, Loki would mock him for his idealism, saying that it was his greatest weakness. We would see that this indeed was a vision the true Thor was having, when in reality, his body was dealing with the immense negative side effects of the antivirus he was given to combat the zombie plague that he was infected with. As Captain America did everything in his power to keep the man down, Bruce Banner injected the Thunder God with a powerful sedative, which luckily worked, putting the man back to sleep. Remarking on how close this was, the men then discussed Dr. Amano's antivirus and just what could have gone wrong. Before they could get too lost in thought, they were met by Tony Stark, who needed them immediately, all while the powerful Thor's skin began to bubble up behind them. We would then see that Tony's emergency meeting was with none other than War Machine, who was delighted that his friends were still alive and informed them that he and his fellow soldiers had set up a blockade around the city to keep the infected from reaching any more innocent people. While things were under control for the moment, that all would change where we would see a lone zombie approach the barricade walls. With one of the troops asking if they should open fire, War Machine told him to stand down, for in the end it was still an innocent person and was not harming anyone. As Tony went over the plan that they were strengthening the antivirus, Rhodey informed him that he would keep things under control as they worked. This would be about as ill-fated a promise as Terrence Howard returning as War Machine though, for we would see that same zombie that James had spared begin to bubble up with a series of blisters, just as Thor had earlier. Before he could even register what was going on, War Machine witnessed this zombie blow itself to pieces in a massive blast that shattered every nearby window, with a horrified Tony asking just what happened. With Rhodey's comms having gone blacker than him, Tony rocketed to the scene to see what happened, with Cap and Hawkeye not far behind. Right as the men neared their destination, they were immediately attacked by another infected who was moving much faster than the typical slow walker types they had encountered earlier that night. With Cap incapacitating the undead, we would see Tony make his way to the bunker, which had been completely destroyed from the explosion. Navigating the carnage, Tony soon located War Machine's armor in the streets below. Upon approaching the suit, we would see the mystery deepen, as there was no Rhodey inside. Whatever happened caused him to completely vanish. As the men tried to brainstorm what was going on, they were soon cornered by an entire legion of undead. Whatever this virus was, it was quickly taking over the city. Tony then instructed them that they needed to figure out a way to hold these people off without killing, so Banner could properly implement the antivirus. However, as soon as the undead got closer, they would not attack, much to the perplexity of the Avengers members. We would see just why this was though, as these zombies soon began to develop the disgusting pulsating blisters, just like the one from before. Back at the lab, we would see Bruce and Dr. Amano hard at work in putting their finishing touches on the cure. While this was the only hope they had in otherwise a very confusing and dark time, Bruce was worried on the number of side effects this could have, as the sample they had tested things on was not indicative enough of a human trial. Weighing their options on who to test this on, Banner advised against using it on Thor, for he did not want to run the risk of him going into a berserker rage again, leaving the only option Black Widow. Knowing this was his only chance, Banner was still hesitant, as this was the woman he loved and did not want to risk losing her. Seeing the love in this man's eyes, Dr. Amano, without hesitation, removed her protective gear and touched Thor's forehead, willingly infecting herself with the virus. With Bruce asking just why the heck she did this, Amano could only smile as the infection took over, saying that she will be the test subject, for she had full confidence in their work. While Banner appreciated the kind gesture, he completely disapproved of this girl willingly infecting herself with a zombie virus from space. Toshiko, being Toshiko, pretty much said forget all that noise and was ready for testing. After commencing injection, Bruce logged the experiment, where the pair then had to wait to see if the results were true. After an emotional conversation of dealing with the literal monster inside of him, Bruce was comforted by a still semi-conscious Nat, who promised that she would always be there for him. As Amano looked on warmly, things would quickly go from hopeful to hopeless, where she began to profusely cough as her vitals skyrocketed out of control. A horrified Bruce would then see Toshiko's face rapidly be overtaken by the disease, where she said that her symptoms were now worse despite being injected with the antivirus. With his time window getting smaller and smaller, Bruce called out to Jarvis, telling him to pull up all of the scientist's files so he could hopefully get things somewhat under control, where we then see a weakened Amano softly whisper the name Jasper. Diving into the doctor's work, Bruce was able to locate a folder with the same name of this mysterious Jasper that Toshiko had mentioned. Seeing there's a video file inside, Banner had Jarvis play it, where we see a younger Dr. Amano being recorded by this Jasper, who claimed that he was recording this as a chronicle of the greatest invention in the modern world. Questioning just who this mysterious man was, Bruce wondered why Amano had never mentioned him. Turning to the sickened doctor, Bruce asked who this man was, where we see the woman's frail voice turn into a strengthened shout of hatred, where she called out to this Jasper once again. We then see that everything that had happened here on this night was being watched by a secret security camera. All of this was being recorded and monitored by a mysterious being on a laptop in the middle of the city. Delighted that things were going to plan, this figure said his patients just needed to continue, for this whole undead sickness revolved around one person and one person only, and that would be Tony Stark.